Hey, Renee.
Hi, Annette.
All right, we're going to have a short conversation on a topic you brought up, which was toxic people. So
Oh, good.
I had some thoughts on it, but then I decided, you know what? Why don't I just Google it and see what Google has to say about what a toxic person is? And it
Hmm.
says a toxic person is anyone whose behavior adds negativity and upset to your life. And many times those people who are toxic are dealing with their own stress and traumas. You always have
Hmm.
to defend yourself to this person. And this is a biggie to me. You always have to defend yourself to this person. You never fully feel comfortable around them. You just never do.
Hmm.
And you continually feel
Hmm.
bad about yourself in their presence because you wish it was something different, more, that type of thing. And that is the definition that Google gives for what a toxic person is. And then,
Wow.
of course, we got more to add to that, but at least I'm reading that and going, okay, all right. I've had moments of being toxic. At least me, I could read it and go, I could identify with, yeah, some of that in there, especially I think in my younger years, especially making people feel uncomfortable being around me just because I was definitely in the negative a lot, a lot.
Hmm.
Can't say that enough. And not that I'm super in the positive, but I definitely have learned that there is a positive and I need to find it for sure, as well as to encourage others and that I'm not the only one in a conversation. It's not all about me. So let's talk about toxic people.
Yeah. I was quite surprised that Google had such a detailed description.
I know. Me too.
Go Google. Go Google.
I think the thing that caught me was you just never fully feel comfortable around them. And I understand when I first meet somebody and then I meet them again and then I run up to them again. But if I have known you for 5 years, Renee, and I meet with you once a week, wouldn't eventually I either feel comfortable with you or I don't? And if I still don't, what's going on between you
Right.
and I?
Right. Yeah.
What's on my part? What's on your part? And should I keep you in my life? As in, should I still keep meeting with you once a week to have coffee? If that was the situation.
Yeah. It's a
Um,
great base to go from.
Good place to go from. So here's some identifying marks, and that is a person who's an energy drainer.
Hmm.
When you walk away, you got nothing left.
Yeah.
You're looking for things to fill your bucket back up because when you're with them, it doesn't seem at times that they can be happy for any reason, and or they're putting you down the whole time, or their need is just needy, and it's all about them, and they're just an energy drainer.
Yeah. Yeah. Almost like a leech that just takes the blood of life out of you. I should say. Yeah, I am going to say it like that. Yeah.
Now, this is different than I introduce you to somebody who is a victim and they're seeking help, if that makes sense, because that is going to draw energy out of you and I. This is completely different when I'm talking about this energy drainer that puts you down and they just can't be happy. They can't look at the positive no matter what, no matter what.
And you feel like you could even feel like you're doing a lot more work while with them and afterwards, like there's more cleanup versus you've been rested or you've been refreshed. There,
Yes.
it's an opposite of that. They've kind of flipped over your life in that time of being in their presence. That should be a flag for you.
Flag for you. The controller would be another person. They just want to control everything, even your own decisions. And then they're mad at you because you didn't choose the way they told you to go. even though you're a grown adult, Renee, and you could choose whatever car you want, but they tell you, no, this is the best car for you. It's this, 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 and they give you all the information and you go, well, thank you. I'll go ahead and consider that. No, this is what you really need to get. You walk away, you get a different car, then they're upset with you and they let you know and they'll put you down. Why did you get this car?
Yeah.
The controller. And I got to be honest, that's control issue is something that I deal with as a victim. And so I got to watch that so that I don't become toxic to others. And that's one of the things that we had talked before about the controlling part that could be on our blind side. And for me, I can miss that. So it's really important that I have my antenna up and paying attention to that so I don't become toxic in that area.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm talking about even to the littlest things, because it will happen in everyday life. I'll give you an example. My husband was unloading the boat. When he unloads the boat, his shorts get wet. He wears pool shoes and everything, so at least he's not wearing his regular shoes. So he's wearing pool shoes into the lake, unloads the boat. I'm in the boat. He releases it. I motor the boat around to go back and pick him up. And later on, when we're getting back in the truck and we're leaving, I'll look over and he's sitting there with wet shorts on our truck seat without a towel, without anything. And all I could think of is, yeah. And so I try to control the situation. What happened to the towel? It got in my way. And it's both of our truck. Does that make sense? It's all these different things. And I could feel the controller and start little things like that can make my controller click. Pardon me. And I got to say, down, girl, down.
I relate. We'll stick to you.
Okay. All right. The drama magnet. Drama magnet. They create drama. And part of that in there, you may even see fake compliments. So for somebody who's a drama magnet, you'll see them make comments that are pretty sharp to people, as well as those fake compliments. And when you see them do it, you're wondering what compliments have they told you that you've believed as well. Yeah. But these drama magnets will keep you on a roller coaster, which is exhausting and manipulating. And that would be the next one that's on my list is the manipulators. And they, again, want to go back to making the decisions for you. Back to that controlling behavior. So when the next time we got into the truck, I went ahead and put a towel real nice on my husband's seat. So when he got back in the truck, he'd sit on the towel. Well, it worked a couple of times. I didn't say anything. When we got back from fishing, I threw it into the washing machine. The third time he went and did it, somehow the towel, when he sat down, it just got squished to the side. He knew it got squished to the side, but he didn't care. It wasn't a big deal to him. We have car seat covers, if that makes sense. His thought is just tear off the car seat cover. That's what it's there for, and wash it. So I was trying to manipulate the situation instead of sitting down with him saying, you know what, it really bothers me. Is there any way that you can, work with me on this to have it so that when I sit down in the truck, I don't get wet from us going fishing earlier in the day where I got to put a fresh towel down because I got to wait for a couple of days for it to dry out. Yeah, and I can do that. I can actually have a conversation with my husband and we can come to a good compromise if that makes sense. But instead, I was going into the control mode. I was going into manipulator, and that is toxic. Nobody likes to be manipulated, and nobody wants to be controlled like that. Yeah, gee, I'm putting myself on the toxic list. Look. I know, Renee, you're never like that, so you don't have to worry about it.
Usually it's my stories, and we get to hear your stories now.
There you go.
Just see the picture.
All right.
Lots of people can relate.
All right. The next one is the victim. So this person is toxic because they always are playing the victim and they're constantly blaming others for why they're suffering.
Mm. We see it. We see it often.
We do.
And they don't take the responsibility themselves. It's always blaming someone else.
Even the dog, even the cat. It's doesn't matter how low it goes down the totem pole. Absolutely. All right. The pessimist. So they talk down to you to make them feel better, if that makes sense. But they'll even talk you out of your own goals. So you may tell me that you got a dream, Renee, that you want to save up and buy this beautiful camping trailer thing. And you're going down and Eddie and I are almost there. We've saved almost enough money. And then I just go ahead and talk down that whole trailer and the whole, just kill it. I just kill it to death. And then after I kill it, you might say, yeah, but we're still looking forward to getting it and we're going to enjoy it. We're still young type thing. And then I'll go ahead and talk you out of it. And Eddie will wonder when he sits with you at dinner and you start talking about maybe we shouldn't do the trailer. He'll be going, what has happened to you? What are you changing your mind?
Yeah.
Why are you so negative against something that was your idea in the beginning? And it was a great idea.
That's right.
That's right. Oh my goodness.
But it's true. People who are pessimistic can be the influencer. And you're talking a different kind of pessimist versus optimistic, pessimistic. I always say it wrong.
It's all right. You got it.
We're talking toxic.
We're
not
talking
just
the toxic level. Yes.
Yes. Where it still comes across as a control and a manipulation, as well as they try to navigate it to their own purposes. Well, if everything's rotten, it needs to be rotten for everybody. And
the first thing that goes negative with you and your trailer, they'll go, see?
Didn't I tell you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, another toxic person would be the fake complimenter. Have you ever met anybody like that?
Sure I have. They don't come to mind right now. The suave person, yeah.
Well, you have a situation where you personally, Renee, will always compliment somebody when you first start talking to them. You do.
Yeah, I look for factors in that person that are good.
And that's the first thing that you will actually say when you start talking to them. You have never started a conversation with me, Renee, without saying, hey, I really like that. Or you always give a compliment, always. And I always wondered in the beginning, is she that insecure that she thinks I don't like her and she has to say something nice about me? So that went through my mind way back when. And then it's like, are they fake compliments?
Mm.
But a fake complimenter lacks empathy. And empathy is something you have never lacked. In fact, you have a lot. You don't lack empathy, and a fake complimenter does lack empathy. And so that's an important note to when you're looking at a toxic person, they lack the empathy and they'll actually put you in a bad situation. So they'll compliment you to the point of sticking you in a place that's not a good place for you to be. And you've never done that with your compliments, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What comes to mind would be somebody that can influence with compliments of how you're going to spend your money.
Ooh, there you go. Yeah,
or going to the casino, well, you're always a winner. You're always this, there's a manipulation to the compliments to get a self-serving
Self-serving, very good.
a self-serving outcome from it. So I can see, I heard that in other friends' situations, being from Washington and there being a lot of casinos around, especially, I would hear that a lot from certain friends. A certain time of the month, that's when certain folks would come around because it was payday. They would remember payday was, they just got their check for the month, their Social Security or whatever it was. That's when those folks would come around and they were sweet talking them. It's like, why are they even in your house? It's, hey, let's go out, let's go have some fun. And it's always that manipulation. It's always, and it's lathered with those compliments. You're so fun to be with. You're this, and then they're broke. They're broke because they just paid for that person's dinner. They just paid for that person's bus fare. They just paid for that person's casino and bingo and all these other things, all their activities. And then they're having issues paying their own bills, all because of that smooth talker with compliments.
Put in a bad situation.
Yep. Toxic.
Okay, toxic again is the criticizer. You can't do nothing right, Renee. It doesn't matter. As soon as they can find fault, criticize. Even if you did something really well, there's going to be criticizing coming from there. And that just could be incredibly toxic.
Yeah.
Which would, of course, drain you. Goes back to being the drainer. If somebody was to criticize you the whole time they were in your house, you'd be exhausted by the time they left because you're like, oh, I'm glad they left. Oops, hold on. Sorry. So the criticizer.
You identified yourself as being toxic earlier in a piece, and I would say that would be me, is the criticizer. I can easily criticize. I can find the negative in things.
Really?
I'm positive with a whole lot of people, but in my own home or with my husband, I can be critical because of the control thing, because I want things a certain way. When I'm hyper vigilant about certain things with mold, whatever, that's when it's like, I'm way up there.
It went.
Yeah. Where I have to watch that. And I can see where I'm toxic in those areas, in those moments.
So what do you do? I know what I do when I'll talk first here. So when I saw the towel situation that I was trying to work out for the truck seat, wasn't working so good. It worked at the beginning, but then didn't work so good. And I was getting kind of perturbed. I went to God saying, you need to fix John. Yeah. You need to help him to realize, Lord, that, this is going on. And when I went to him, it was like, what? And then it was after you need to fix John. It was like, what should I do? And then it was realize what you're doing. Immediately, I felt like the Holy Spirit was speaking to me. No, I didn't hear a verbal voice, but I felt like the Holy Spirit was speaking to me. Well, look what you're doing. You're manipulating the situation. Have a talk with John. He loves you. And if you tell him it bothers you to sit on a wet seat later on in the day for a couple of days, because he sat down with lake water on the truck. Have a talk with John. He loves you. And it was, oh. So that's my biggest thing, is constantly going to God when situations come up. And boy, when I get that truth back at me, it's hard, but it's truth. And it's better for me to walk forward after that.
It's true. And I'll usually make my mistake first. Then Eddie will make a comment, and then I'll realize.
So he's showing you your blind spot. That's all.
Well, an example would be for us, we're doing a remediation right now, a small remediation project. And we're at the end of it. He came in the house, but I didn't ask him if he took off his shoes at the door. I just assumed because he was outside cleaning up equipment, that he just walked through the house with what he had on and that he didn't clean his feet, didn't take off shoes, whatever. So I didn't check in with him to see, did he follow the protocol or not? I just made the assumption that he didn't clean his feet. And so I started mopping. He's in bed like, what are you doing out there? I said, I'm mopping the floor with ammonia. What are you doing that for? Well, I'm assuming you walked to the bathtub to shower after we did our stuff because that's what you do. It's like, Renee, I washed my feet outside. Had I asked, it would have saved me all that work and thinking that he missed a piece of the protocol, you know, so my bad. Had I checked with him first is the lesson I keep learning. Communication is so important. Then
Yes, so I mean, that's how it ended up with John and I. Communicate.
yeah.
Just try to communicate, girl. I didn't even
It's
try.
so simple. I don't know why I keep forgetting it.
Okay. The last one that I have written down, because I was just going with the top ones for toxic people, was the liar.
The liar.
The liar.
Mhm. Mm.
They will send you on guilt trips with their lies just to emphasize the lies even more. So yeah, I don't have much more to say about the liars except it drains you. It drains you when you find out they've been lying and or you're hearing them lie and they're telling you the story and you know differently. Yeah.
The word narcissistic behavior comes to mind.
Yes.
Kind of wrap. Takes a lot of all of those that you're listing, but definitely the lying, huge in that behavior.
And the biggest thing you
Not
can do
speaking
on
the
that
truth.
is not getting drawn into their world.
No.
No. Pay attention to how you feel when you're done being with them. Like I had made it the situation, if I was meeting for you for one time for a year and I'm not paying attention to how I feel afterwards, it'd be important for me to just take an inventory. How am I feeling afterwards?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you feel like, gee, God, I really felt like you put Renee in my life. I've met with her 6 times already. And we agreed that we would meet one time for a full year. Stop and talk to Renee about how I'm feeling when I leave. And you'll either take it or you won't take it, but it would make a decision in that, because if you had no idea, might be a blind spot for you, that when I left, I was totally exhausted because all you talk about is negative, negative, negative. It might be a wake-up call for you.
Yeah.
And
I've had friends that have said things like that as well. Like where they've said after I pointed something out or I'll lay a boundary down, like, wow, I'm glad you did that because I realized one of my weaknesses is I don't read things well, right? You know, they weren't reading the cues or something of that sort. So they were appreciative of the boundary finally being laid down with someone, which was me. Hey, I noticed this, and it's something they want to work on. So I love it when somebody's teachable that way and willing to pay attention to it after that.
now, when you offer compassion, don't try to fix them. Compassion is different than trying to fix.
No enabling.
No enabling, right? And if it's just not going to work out, walk away. You know, Renee, we're going to stop meeting. I know we agreed to meet, but this is not working out for me. Not going to say it's not working out for either of us because then I'm making a judgment call for you. But I'm saying it's not working for me at this time. And so just not going to meet with you anymore. And that would be a way to walk away. I know walking away is hard for people like you, but it is the best. It's that boundary you're going to have to put up to prevent yourself from being around this toxic person continually.
Draining you. Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure, oh, go ahead.
I actually applaud, now that we talk about this, I applaud a girlfriend of mine that just recently, she left a job.
Mm.
I mean, she was there maybe 13 years or more. I don't remember how many years she was there. And, you know, great program of funding if she stayed until she retired, you know, because they give you back a whole lot of funds, but we'll just say it like that. But she just kept saying they're so toxic. They keep draining me instead of encouraging me and uplifting me and doing the things that should be done in her life. She just dreaded it every day, having to go into this environment. And she goes, no money in the world is going to keep me remaining there. And she finally put her foot down and she left that work environment. And I even played the, I'll call it devil's advocate, like, are you sure about this decision? You know, is this going to be a financial decision that's smart for your family? You know, so I was kind of that pusher to make sure this was the right decision. And it was. She recognized the toxicity, recognized it was not good for her, recognized it was affecting even her health and her the mental health, and that's so important. She's like, I would rather make less money than to be torn down like this every day and then have to rebuild when she gets home to only get torn down again the next day. So praise God, she walked away and she found something that fit her better and with people who appreciated her skill sets. So I'm celebrating her. She knows who she is. But it took a lot to walk away from that because that was her support system. Those were all her friends, not just coworkers. So it took a lot to cut that out, cut it off. So.
One last thing was, remember, you aren't at fault. If this person's toxic, it's not your fault. Just go ahead and set that boundary. And that's it. That's it. We didn't hit all the different toxic type people, but a lot of them went back to the original of energy drainer, controller, and then from there manipulation. And it seemed like they all start to follow that same pattern. And so that's why I gave those main ones.
Yeah. And that was a great way to start, is with that Google definition to recognize those things. Yeah. Good one.
All right. I will talk to you later.